Hey filmmakers, it's Kerry with Filmmaker Central, and today we're going to talk about the new DJI Pocket 2. So stay right there. We'll be right back. Now, it may not come as much of a surprise to some of you that I am a big fan of DJI products, considering I own and operate the DJI Colorado store in Centennial, Colorado. So yeah, I use a lot of DJI products. And lately, one of my favorites has been the Pocket 2. There's quite a bit of difference between the original Pocket and the Pocket 2. And to be honest, I never really used the Pocket. There was, I don't know, the sensor was small. It just didn't really do what I wanted. And most of it had to do with audio. There was just no good way of getting audio in. In fact, this is an original Pocket. And in order to run a microphone in here, you had to have this dongle that stuck out on the bottom and then plug into that. So it made it really difficult to put on a tripod without cages and then have that in there. You couldn't charge it while you were using the microphone. You couldn't use the wireless module when you were using the microphone. I mean, it was just not very well put together. And then controlling the gimbal, you had this extra, which you had to pay for, an extra control wheel, and you could toggle it between pan and tilt. You couldn't do both at the same time. You could do it with your finger on your phone, but with the controller, it was one or the other. And the only other thing, it's so small. Now, usually there's nothing wrong with something being small, but in this case, it's really small. Well, the Pocket 2 came out, and now this may seem bigger. Actually, side by side, they're damn near identical. On the bottom here, I have a module called the Do-It-All handle, and this has a bunch of different functions. First off, it has a 3.5 millimeter jack on the side. Now this can serve two purposes. It can be a mic input, so I can connect a microphone to it, or I can have headphones connected to it so I can monitor what it's recording. So that is pretty darn cool. Next, it has USB-C charging on the back, which means I can do a microphone and charge it at the same time. It's also the wireless module. So where the original Pocket was 3 separate pieces for the wireless, the microphone, and not having any of them in order to charge, this is an all-in-one handle, and it does all of those things. So big improvement. Now, it does add, about 1.5 inches to the bottom of the Pocket 2, but for me, I like that. It gives me a much better feel. I feel like I'm less likely to drop it. Now, where the Pocket had this dial that you could toggle between pan and tilt, this one has a joystick. Yeah, I know, right? 2021. It has a joystick that allows you to do pan and tilt and do diagonals. And it's included. Big one for DJI. Okay, it's included. Now, as part of the creator combo, not only do you get the all-in-one handle, you get a little wireless microphone. This is very, very similar to the Rode Wireless Go. It's actually a little smaller. It's about the same height, but it's a little narrower. And this works great. I love this thing. It has really good range. The audio quality is good with the current firmware. There was a problem with earlier firmware. If you were shooting indoors like this, it would pick up a lot of electrical interference. That's all been fixed on here. Camera, we went from a 1/2 CMOS sensor to a 1.1.7 CMOS sensor, so it's a slightly bigger sensor on here. I'm going to look down and look at some specs here. It has a 93-degree field of view at f1.8, which is a 20 millimeter equivalent. A lot of people complain about that. Be nice if it was more like 16, but with the creator combo, it does come with a wide angle adapter, gives you a little bit more width Now, when I'm doing vlogging type stuff, if I'm holding it at pretty much arm's length, the field of view is actually not bad. I'm okay with it, but I have pretty long arms, so it works for me. But I use this a lot on my channel called Trail Traveler to do exterior shots, action shots, and it has been working really well. Also, when I do my intros and outros on that video channel, I'm just holding this out here with the wireless mic, and I'm really happy with the results. So photos, it has a ISO range of 100 to 6400 at 16 megapixels or 100 to 3200 if you're in 64 megabit mode. Now, where the Pocket, original Pocket would shoot 12 megapixel stills, this can do 16 megapixel stills or 64 megapixel stills. I know, small sensor, going into 64 megabit or megapixel mode. It's not awesome, but it works. It does a decent job. In video, you have an ISO of 100 to 6400, and slow motion, your ISO is going to be 100 to 3200. I haven't really pushed this thing over 400. That's not really the purpose of this for me. I should probably do some low light testing. The Pocket actually did pretty good in low light. I've actually sold stock footage that was sold at night with the Pocket, and with a slightly larger sensor, I would imagine this is going to be a little bit better. Electronic shutter speed of 8 seconds to 1/8,000th of a second. Seems to work pretty good. Max image size of 9216 by 6912. Still photography modes, you have single shot in either 16 or 64 megapixel, a countdown timer of 3, 5, or 7 seconds, a 3x3 panorama or 180 degree panorama. Okay, video, that's what most of you guys are going to be interested in. So it can do 1920 at 1080 up to 60 frames per second, 2.7K at up to 60 frames per second, and 4K at up to 60 frames per second. So let's scroll down here, video modes. We have video, HDR video. So HDR video actually is only available in the most current firmware, and because of the processing it takes to create HDR video, there's some limitations. First off, you're limited to 1080 resolution, and it adds a 1.7 times crop. So that's pretty tight. And when we're already talking a fairly narrow field of view for a camera like that, that's kind of a big hit. It does time lapse, motion lapse, hyperlapse. There are 2 slow motion modes, both in 1080p, for 120 frames per second for 4 times slow, and a 240 frames per second for 8 times slow motion. Really don't use the 240 frames per second. It's just going to get too grainy. The maximum video bitrate is 100 megabits. Come on, DJI, step it up. Get up to 120. You know, a little bit more would be really nice. I don't know why they still limit it to 100 with even the newest products. Get up to 120, 140. It would be really, really nice for these higher resolutions. Photo format does JPEG and DNG RAW, so that's nice. Video formats, it can do MP4 in H.264. Would have been nice to get H.265. All their other stuff does H.265. Not sure why this guy won't, other than maybe being a heating problem, but deal with it. Figure it out. It would have been nice to get H.265 on here. Battery runtime. Now, they're claiming 140 minutes on this thing, but I'm going to read right from their website. Tested in a laboratory environment while recording 1080p 24 frames per second video and should be used for reference only. Yeah, a lot of things can impact what is going to affect the battery life on here. If this is sitting on a tripod shooting 1080, yeah, you probably are going to get pretty close to, a little over 2 hours. But if you are moving this thing around and the gimbal is really working and it's cold, you got other environmental variables going on, then that is going to drop. But I would definitely expect in the 2 hour range is going to be pretty good. 140 is probably pushing it a little bit. And then when you move up to 4K, that's going to drop significantly. That's probably going to drop you down into the 90-minute range. So be prepared for that. But the battery life has been good. I haven't run out at all. But also the way I work and do things when I'm doing my trail videos is when I'm not using it, it's plugged in. So it's always recharging. So I haven't had an issue with that. This uses the DJI Mimo app, and there's a lot of features involved in that with story modes, editing, remote control, some pretty cool stuff. What I do like is I haven't had to take this off and put the smartphone adapter in to do anything other than the initial activation of it. After that, everything I've been able to do with the remote on here instead of on here where I had to switch over to the smartphone adapter all the time to do like firmware updates and things. So very nice improvement on here. Got to say I'm very happy with it. It's worked really well. I don't have really any complaints other than I wish the sensor would have been a little bit bigger. Wish they would have gone with a 1/2-inch sensor. In terms of things that I wish could have been improved, first, I wish it would have been a bigger sensor. No reason they couldn't have gone with a 1/2-inch sensor on here. Yes, it would have made things a little bit bigger, but would have had a bigger appeal to it. But you know, we got to live with what it is. It'd be nice if the screen was a little bit bigger so you could see it a little easier. When you're recording, it's very easy to miss shots because you can't see the recording light. It's just a few pixels. Up above the screen, a nice big LED flashing red to tell you that you're recording would have been a huge improvement on this. I just can't tell you how many times I've handed this to somebody and they've missed the shot, or even I've missed the shot because I thought it was recording, and then afterwards when I'm looking at the footage, I don't get what was being shot. I get shots of their feet because they're just now holding it and they turned it off, or they turned it on when they thought they were turning it off. So a big LED tally light on here would have been a big improvement. I hope we see that in the next one. Battery life sufficient. The field of view, that it just needs to be a little bit wider. You know, they want to promote this as a vlogging camera, but it's just not wide enough. Yeah, throwing in a wide angle adapter is okay, but I've already lost one. I had to buy another one because it just fell off. I probably tapped it on something and it just fell off. It's not a secure mounting for the filters. They just stick on with a magnet. I think that's a really poor way of doing it. They should have been a little bit more secure where they clip in, so losing them isn't going to be an issue. I have lost a lot of ND filters on this guy. They use the same filters, so that's cool, but I have lost a lot of filters for this guy. I turn around and I'm like, oh, well, lost another ND filter. Happens. And I've already lost one of the wide angle filters on here and had to purchase another one. So there's that. Does have a tripod mount on the bottom, which is kind of cool. It's about time. The old one had no tripod mount accessory at all. You had to use a third-party product, and I actually made some, 3D printed them and sold a bunch of them because there was just no good way of mounting that on a tripod until companies like Polar Pro came out with cages and things. And I don't really want to put a cage on it. It just makes it more bulky. So really, there's not a lot to complain about on here. Like I said, the sensor size, the field of view, the not having an easy way of telling that you're recording. But other than that, I think this is a great unit. And, you know, for under $500 for the creator combo with everything, including the wireless microphone, the all-in-one handle, the different little accessories that really don't add up to much. But these are the two important ones, the all-in-one handle and the microphone. And when you think that Rode Wireless Go is about $200 and you have that built in, that's really a nice package. So check it out. It's the DJI Pocket 2. Like I said, I'm a big fan. I use it a lot. Every weekend I am out using this thing, and I'm very, very happy with it. The Pocket doesn't really get much use anymore. There's going to be times where it's like, okay, I want another person filming just to get multiple shots of something. I'll just throw this out there. I'll start recording and hand it to them so that they're not messing with it. This one is used a lot by me and the people who do most of my filming. We use this a lot. So thanks for watching, everybody. This has been Kerry with Filmmaker Central. Really appreciate all the likes, shares, and subscribes. Hope you like what I'm doing on the channel. Comment below. Let me know what I can do to improve or what type of topics you would like to see. And I'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.